Going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. If you don't know who I am, that means you're new. I'm Mark. What's good with y'all? Go check out my other videos. Check them out. Check them out. But first, stay on this one. Told you guys I was going to do multiple videos today. I told you guys that's... Look at me. Look at me doing multiple videos in one day. Like, you know, I have free time when I really don't. I'm just cramming this in. But let's get right into it. Ammo 101. What caliber I believe is best for new shooters. And I'm even going to go into a little bit of detail as to why. So one of the main reasons why I am saying this simply has to do with size. The size of the individual kind of has something to do with it. Now, I will say there are exceptions to this rule. Just the other day, I saw a lady that was no more than 5'3", and she was just shooting a 10 mil 1911, having a great time like it was nothing. So there are exceptions to this rule. Don't get me wrong, guys. Now, let's get right into it. For starters, we're going to start with your average, your average grown male. For your average grown male, first-time shooter, what caliber would I recommend you start with? Why would I recommend this caliber? So I would recommend you start with 9mm. Why that is in particular has to do with a couple of different reasons. So one, I'm assuming that if you're shooting for the first time, you're probably looking at a firearm for the first time to get for self-defense. 9mm is a fairly capable caliber. It can help you with that. You get a good capacity with a majority of 9mm handgun rounds. 9mm handgun rounds. 9mm handguns. Sorry, I'm extremely tired, guys. The baby has kept me up all night. But moving on. And then it all boils down to the fact that 9mm is also a fairly low recoil round. So those are all three reasons why I would simply say for your average grown male, start with 9mm. Oh, and another one too is 9mm is extremely widely available. The chances are if you are at a store that runs out of 9mm, they probably just got bought out and haven't had a chance for a shipment to come in. The last time I heard of a store being completely out of 9mm and not getting any anytime soon was like COVID days. That's how long ago it was. Now, granted, that's only about 4.5, 5 years ago, but still, I think the statement stands. Moving on, let's talk about your average sized female shooter. I would try to start you with 9mm. I would try to say start with 9mm. The reason why I say that is because some women don't have an issue with 9mm. And keep in mind, guys, I am also a firearms instructor. No, I am not NRA certified, so I'm not doing concealed weapons permits or anything like that, but I do host classes. So back to what I was saying, I have seen several times that 9mm has been perfectly fine for some women. I've also seen several occasions where it's just a bit much. So in that event, I would then move you down to 380 ACP. Luckily, there are a good number of handguns now that have a good capacity of 380 ACP. And while 380 isn't the best caliber when it comes to stopping a threat, it can do the job. So it is okay on the scale of, if it can help you in that situation. Let me see here. Of course, a really low recoil round and extremely available as well. Maybe not as available as 9mm, also not as cheap as 9mm, but that's besides the point. If 380 for some reason is still too much, then at that point I would have to, say move down to a 22 LR or a 22 long rifle. Now, there are some 22s that you do get a okay capacity with, and you guys might be wondering, why do you keep mentioning capacity, especially if you guys are new to the channel, you guys haven't watched any of my videos before. Capacity is pretty important, in my opinion, when it comes to picking something out for self-defense. The reason why is because I have never in my life heard somebody say, and I know a good amount of veterans, I know a good amount of law enforcement, I have never in my life heard somebody say after a shootout, wow, I had too much ammo on me. So capacity is a pretty important thing in my opinion. Moving on though, there are some 22 LR or 22 long rifle handguns that have a okay capacity, and Okay for 22, unfortunately, means anything really over 12 plus 1. And it sounds kind of odd for me to say. I'm not saying that is an ideal capacity for that caliber. What I'm saying, unfortunately, is that a majority of firearms chambered in 22 long rifle don't have that good of a capacity. I mean, even the Glock 44, for example, which is the same size as the Glock 19, which the Glock 19, as a majority of you guys, if not all of you guys should know, holds 15 plus 1 of 9mm, whereas the Glock 44, the same size, only holds 10 plus 1 of 22. So a majority of 22 LR handguns don't really have that great of a capacity. There are some exceptions to the rule. For example, I believe it's the Taurus TX22. It is. I might be wrong on the model name there. I know I have it on my list of guns that I want to get. However, it's just not like very close to being number one on the list, so it's not off the top of my head. My apologies. But moving on, let's say you were a child, you were a first-time shooter. What caliber would I recommend that you start with? And keep in mind, guys, I have seen a lot of children shoot a lot of different calibers at the range. Now, some of you guys might be like, oh, you guys are teaching kids to shoot at your range? Yeah, we do host kids classes. I mean, firearm safety is important. Making sure the kids know is important. Besides the point, though, if you are a child and you are, first-time shooter, I would recommend you start with 22 long rifle as well. The main reason why that is simply due to the fact that it is a low recoil round. It pretty much is like a BB gun for those who haven't shot a 22 yet. Now, of course, a kid isn't exactly looking around to get a firearm for self-defense like I mentioned earlier. However, some parents, for example, me, I will be teaching my child how to shoot when she gets older. Some parents who are like me are like, hey, my kid, I want them to know how to shoot just in case something is to ever happen. That's more than reasonable. But I would recommend they start with 22 LR. Now, I've seen some kids, I believe it was like a 10, 11-year-old, not exaggerating in the slightest, guys, shooting a AK 7.62 by 39. I've seen a bunch of different kids in the range that are shooting 9mm. Some have shot 40. But keep in mind, guys, some of these kids are ranging from the ages of like 7. You know what I mean? They're not exactly, the best way for me to say it is that some kids will shoot 22 and be like, hey, I can handle more. And then you can move them up, go to 380, whatever, but to start them off, I think it would be safest for everybody to start them off with a 22, especially since a majority of kids, they really aren't, hey, let me go ahead and move up and deal with more recoil. But with that being said, I do think that about wraps it up for this video. I'm about to go and get some sleep finally. Y'all make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that bell. When you hit that bell, hit all. And whether or not you agree with me about my thoughts on what calibers I believe new shooters should start with, go ahead and comment down below why or why not. Go ahead and make sure to check out all my other videos. I'll make sure to stay legal, stay safe, stay dangerous. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.